Hi, I'm Austin. That's me on the eye right there. For 2 years of my life, I lived in a small country in South America between Peru and Colombia called Ecuador. I was an English teacher working with the Peace Corps. Now, when I was there, I was practicing something I call extreme financial minimalism. Let me explain. During those 2 years, I was making $570 a month. 200 of that went to rent. So I was left with $370 a month to spend. And to put that in perspective, a lunch cost about $3.50, a bus ride was 25 cents, and a cup of coffee was about $1. So that $370 covered food, transportation, and an occasional coffee, nothing else. And during those 2 years, I didn't buy one single item outside my necessities. I had to be extremely intentional on how I spent my money and get the most out of every dollar I spent. Hi, my name's Austin. Welcome to my channel. And in this video, I want to talk about 8 things that I learned in those 2 years when I didn't buy one single thing. So let's start off with number 1, and that's you appreciate more with less. When I was living in Ecuador, every so often, I saved up enough money to go to the grocery store and buy me a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese. Now, at that moment, this was considered a luxury in Ecuador because I couldn't afford it that often. And I learned that in the United States, we often just live in a culture of abundance. We can have anything we want whenever we want. But whenever you limit yourself to things, you end up enjoying it more. And even now, I make more money than I used to, and I can have Kraft macaroni and cheese whenever I want. But I choose to limit myself in other things, like eating out, because I know that whenever you have an abundance of something and you just keep doing it, you stop appreciating it as much. So that's the first thing I learned. And the second thing I learned is that it doesn't take much to be happy. In those 2 years, I really learned that there's only 3 things in this world that you need, and it's food, clean drinking water, and a roof over your head. And everything beyond that is optional. In those 2 years, I didn't buy one single thing outside of those 3 necessities. Did it affect my happiness? Not one single bit. I think in the United States, we're often told that you need to search external for happiness. You need to find happiness in material possessions like a new phone or a new car. But I personally believe that the more external you search for happiness, the less happy you become. Right now, I save 60% of my income. And I do that not because I'm trying to be frugal and save a lot of money. I do that just because I know that I'm not going to find happiness by spending more money, so I'd rather just save it for my security. And so the next thing that I learned was happiness comes from community. In Ecuador, I lived in a small cement house in the southern part of Quito without Wi-Fi. And in those 2 years, I spent most of my time outside of my house because there was really nothing to do in my house except for sleep. And so when I left the house, I was greeted by local shop owner. I had little small conversations in the street. I went to have coffee all the time. In the United States, I think we often have convenience. And I think that we pay for these conveniences like Uber Eats and grocery store delivery to your house. But you don't just lose more money in these things, you lose community. When I was living in Ecuador, I got so much from these little small interactions throughout the day because I felt like I was part of something bigger. And that's one thing that money can really take away once you just have too much convenience in your life. And the next thing I learned is that less money spawns creativity. In those 2 years, I was making so little that when I got my first apartment in Ecuador, I couldn't afford to furnish it. I couldn't afford furniture. So what I did is I went to the market and I bought about 15 fruit crates for 25 cents a piece, and I just built my own furniture. And I think that when you have less money, you can't just go out and buy stuff like furniture. You become more creative in how you live. I mean, if you've noticed in my videos back there, I've actually made my own bed frame out of pallets. And I do that because it reminds me of the creativity I got in Ecuador. And I think as you get older in life and you start to make more money, you become more comfortable and secure. And I think that's great and all, but I think that you also lose a lot of your creativity. So even now, as I'm making more money, I always try to opt for the more creative route than the easy route. And the next thing that I learned was being poor isn't the same thing as being in poverty. In those 2 years in Ecuador, I was making $370 a month after rent. And by American standards, I was pretty poor. But something that you learn when you're living in a developing country and you're making a very small salary is that there's a difference between being poor and being in poverty. When you're poor, you just don't have any money. But when you're in poverty, you have a mental illness of constantly being behind and constantly worrying about money and spending it the second you get it. And so I know that as I go on in life, I don't know what's going to happen. But if eventually I'm become poor, I know I can just break out of it because I'll never be in poverty, because poverty is a mental mindset. And the next thing that I learned is that time is the ultimate asset. During those 2 years, I was cash poor. I was making $370 after rent, but I was extremely rich in time. I would finish my job around 1 and just go have lunch, and I had the rest of the day to do whatever I want. So I had coffee with friends. I went to the gym to work out with friends. And those are the things I remember. I don't remember what kind of jeans I was wearing or what kind of cell phone I had, because time is the most valuable asset. And I keep mentioning in my videos that on your financial journey, you need to define how much money is enough in your life, because you can always be making more money, but we're all limited in how much time we have in life. So it's the ultimate asset, time. And the next thing that I learned was the best things in life are free. It's a cliche, but it's true. The best things in life are free. In those 2 years in Ecuador, I didn't buy anything outside of my necessities of food, water, and a roof over my head. And when you do that, and when you're living on such a low wage and you don't have any debt, what you learn is that happiness is found through extremely simple things, like conversations with friends or just walks in the park. We humans have been happy long before sports cars, smartphones, and Netflix. Happiness is very simple, and the best things in life are free. And the last thing that I learned in those 2 years without buying anything is that money doesn't really matter. Or let me rephrase that a little bit. Money doesn't really matter if you have it. But if you don't have it and you're in debt, then money matters a lot. Because when you're in debt, you're constantly trying to catch up and you're constantly behind on things. And I think it's the modern form of slavery. But if you do have money, it can only make you happy to a certain point, because it can make you feel comfortable and it can make you feel secure. But after that, you're going to have to find value in other things outside of money, because money doesn't really matter. And those are the 8 things that I learned in my 2 years without buying anything. And my channel is about personal finance, but I don't talk about becoming rich, because I just don't think that we need to strive to become rich. We just need to strive to become comfortable and secure. So if you do enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to my channel, comment down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much for your time, and have a good day.